Welcome to My Bloody Website, the podcast show where we talk all things online for small and medium business owners or executives who still refer to their bloody website. I'm your co-host, Daryl King.
And I'm Edmund Pelgan.
Morning, Ed. Nice to see you here again.
Morning, Daryl. How are you?
Great, mate. So episode 4. And today, the last couple of episodes, we've covered a few basic fundamentals, had a few rants, talked about how business owners or executives should look after things. Today, we're going to talk about online marketing 101 for dummies.
Just the basics.
Just the basics. But to help, in our intro podcast, we talked about there's a lot of confusion and misinformation. And I experience it a lot where I think people refer to elements of their marketing with generic terms. And while some people do that, consciously, a lot of people don't do it consciously. It's all muddled in their head. Yeah. And then the decisions they get to make, the stuff they have to learn or understand at their level, I think can be muddied. So I thought, why don't we talk through, and for some people this might be a bit dull, might be a bit low level, but the people we want the show to help the most, those people that are struggling to get their head around it. So why don't you explain in broad terms the definition of what is online marketing?
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate it, right? At the end of the day, online marketing is simply the process of delivering any sort of marketing message using the internet. It's really that simple, right? And I think the confusion comes for a lot of people because we confuse the channels, right? The ways that we deliver the messages. At the end of the day, and I guess this is the problem for us practitioners too. We get caught up thinking, oh, I'm an SEO guy, or I'm a pay-per-click guy, I'm a social media guy or gal, right? And then you tell that to customers, and they get confused. At the end of the day, all of it, all of these channels are simply ways of communicating with your audience, sharing a marketing message. It's that simple, right?
Okay. So, which makes sense. So, and I guess like you said, people are confused because they talk about the channel, and we probably are going to talk about the channels because that's
absolutely
that's causing the confusion, right? But it's a really good thing. Marketing. A lot of people confuse branding with brand. A lot of people confuse marketing with advertising, and I don't think that's any different with the online space. Yeah. That people confusing the fact that they what they think is the only marketing they're doing online. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm running a pay-per-click campaign. I'm doing online marketing, when in fact their website is online marketing. Their email newsletters, the footer of their email signature is technically online marketing.
Yeah.
But
do you know, there's a framework that I used in a speech a couple of months back, which I thought was very helpful to most people. And when you approach online marketing, and as a business owner or as an executive, and you think, where do I spend my money, right? I think it's important to think of just two things. One, right, how much money do I have? What's my budget for the investment? And the second thing is, how quickly do I need a result? And depending on the mix of those two elements there will dictate what channel or how you're going to spend your money, right, to get the results you want in the time frame that you have within the budget you've got, right?
And you're talking, I guess, strategic decisions.
Yeah.
And what tactics to implement. So, and I think in future episodes, you'll probably espouse a lot more of your deep knowledge about tactical stuff. We want to get a little bit more specific about things that cause confusion. So why don't you answer some questions then that we know, and I know you get this a lot, but because I don't always have the same discussions with people necessarily. Why don't you first explain what's what we call SEO, search engine optimization. Why don't you explain what it is? So and we could talk about other things and what it isn't later, but what is search engine optimization?
Yeah. Absolutely. So search engine optimization is simply the process of making sure that your content, your website pages, right, can be found by potential customers when they're online, either looking for a product or a service, or they're looking for information to help them solve a problem, find a solution for those problems. It's that simple. It's the process of making sure that your website, right, has the ability to get found and does get found when those customers need to find you.
So can I SEO my Facebook page?
No. It's primarily about the website, the asset that you own there, right? And so if you ask an SEO person, they'll say there's two elements to it. There's what's called the on-site elements, the things that you can do to your website to improve how it performs, and then the off-site elements, which are the things that aren't on your website specifically, but that you can influence. And that's things like, PR and getting people talking about you that will ultimately help feedback and result in Google showing your website more often when someone's looking for something.
Okay. And I mean, I know we talk about Google a lot because particularly outside of the US, it's the only search engine of note that exists. So to be clear, the end result of doing search engine optimization is that when you go to a Google search result page, and you go to Google, typed in your query, you get a search result page.
Absolutely.
And it's pretty muddy now. There's a lot of stuff on there. But if your page ranks for that query, we're going to show up there for the non-paid ads and the non-rich ads. That's all.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say? Your question?
Well, and I guess we're not showing screens, and maybe in future episodes we could do that. But there's a lot of confusion then about everything that's on a Google search result.
Absolutely.
So what do we call it? What's it referred to? These are the organic results, right?
Yes. So, and here's the problem, right? The real estate you're looking at, you pull up your web browser, and now, especially more importantly, on your mobile phone, there's a limited amount of space. And the reason why people were chasing high position one rankings is that behavior will show that people will typically only look at the results on the first page. And if you're higher up on that page, you'll get that click through and you'll get the customer looking at your wares, as it were, right? The challenge for any business owner or executive is the fact that Google makes money by selling advertising on that real estate, right? The bait is, hey, let's allow you to rank high and whatnot and rank your websites. But you'll notice that if you look at a Google search results page now, the ads sit above the traditional organic search results, and organic being, where your site ranks by merit, right? So there's ads there now pushing you down. In addition, you've got issues with what Google is showing. Universal search will show things like images, video, right? Maps listings, right? So Google is really smart because they understand what people need in terms of what they're looking for, and they'll deliver the content and specifically to achieve that.
Specifically about that then, because we're talking about the thing. Yeah, we want to help people understand the difference. So I do these on-site and off-site things for my SEO, okay? And that's going to help my website or pages rank better. Does that work? Does that help me show up in that map? Because you know what? My competitor's got a marker on the map. He's there number one on the map. So if I do this stuff, is it going to make my map show up?
Yeah, well, you'll be in the maps if you list your business in the maps. See, Google, the maps that you see on
but hang on. So if I do my on-site stuff and my off-site stuff, does it get me in the map? And you just said no, not natively.
Well, you have to make sure that you actually submit yourself to the maps.
So this is it's like another sub-channel, right? So how does someone, to explain the map, how does someone get in the map? What are the basics?
Absolutely.
If they're not in the map, how do they get in the map?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to explain that the maps will appear when your search is what's called local in nature, right? I'm in Brisbane and I'm looking for a plumber, and I do a search like Brisbane plumber. So Google knows that if I'm doing that sort of search, I want to see a local search result, and it'll show a map. So if you are a local business, if you serve a specific area, you need to be listed in this system called Google My Business. And that system is designed for local business owners to list their businesses, to provide information about it, provide the address, the contact information, right? So that it can present your business to someone in your area searching for something that you provide.
Okay. So questions that come up. So if I go and list my business in my Google, is it going to make my other pages rank well?
No.
Okay. So the reason I asked is to say that the individual Google products don't necessarily influence. And I'm leading the question a little bit because people ask this, because we're going to talk about paid ads. And quite often people will say, well, I run paid ads because they'll help me show up, my other listings show up better, or vice versa. And, I guess that's an important thing to understand. These channels, in lots of ways, operate independent of each other, don't they?
Yes, absolutely, and they're for very different things, right? Local, as I said, Google My Business is maps. It's all about delivering local results, and you see it now. We've got personalized search results for every person online. If I'm on the Sunshine Coast and I do a search on my desktop, I'll see a set of results that you won't see, even for the same phrase. In addition, if I'm on a mobile device and Google is tracking me, that's why they bought Android, right? And they build phones. They know where I am, and they'll deliver personalized search results for me. It's just the way it is. So in order for you to be found in organic search, as it were, you need to understand, first of all, that that's what Google is doing. And then B, you need to make sure that your website is optimized for that experience, for say mobile or for location, and then that you're in their systems, if that makes sense.
Okay, so then what we're sticking a little bit with the Google footprint to start with, because we're talking about, and these are all different channels. So we have AdWords. We talked about that. They display sponsored ads at the top of the search results, sides, bottoms, depending on where you are and what device and things. Explain AdWords, and we in industry use PPC, but PPC obviously not just AdWords. There are other paid click models. So maybe explain a little bit about AdWords particularly, but PPC as a rule. What is it in basic terms?
Yeah, absolutely. So Google AdWords is a pay per click system where you bid on specific keyword phrases that people go to Google and search for, right? And that's a really key thing to understand, because later on we'll probably talk about Facebook, right? They have an advertising platform as well, but Google's advertising platform is driven around keywords. So someone has a question in their mind, or they're looking for something, they go to Google and they will search using a specific phrase. Well, Google AdWords allows you to say, hey, when someone searches for that phrase, I'm willing to pay $1, $2, $3, right, to show my ad up, and if they click on it, I'll pay you that $3. So it becomes an auction system. If you've got a competitor who's willing to pay more, to bid more per click, then their ad will appear above yours. Now, it gets even more complex, because Google's not just about he who pays the most wins, right? It wants to deliver the best experience for the end user. So there are all these other things that factor into what they call a quality score of your ad, your ad copy, your page, the landing page, all that sort of stuff. But at a very fundamental level, it comes down to a combination of what you're willing to pay per that click and the quality score of your ads and page and everything else.
Well, and I think often explaining to people that Google's in the business of making money, as they all are. Like they give lots of free services away per se. But so what? Because everyone go, well, I just got to bid more. It's not all that. So if someone might have $20 click price, and they're initially number one listing ad, the second ad could be $7 click cost, but the first one gets clicked only once a day. The bottom one's getting 10 times an hour. Google's going to promote that one higher because they make more money, because they're clicking, every time it's clicked.
Correct.
They get, every click $7, but they're getting 10, they're ending up with, 100 to 1 or whatever it might be. So ultimately, it's not just about their price. It's obviously all the quality score, but it's also about all forms of marketing. Is my copy good? Does my ad read well?
Absolutely.
Got a strong call to action. So all those things. So it's a complex beast in itself, but
it is.
But you're paying to drive traffic. So it's more akin to offline advertising that people were more familiar with. I run a radio ad, I'm trying to drive a call to action. It's immediate. I know if I book them for next week, they run next week, rather than, and maybe you talked about right at the beginning how you want to invest money and how long are you prepared to wait for a result.
Correct.
And maybe talk a little bit perhaps about how PPC and SEO are two different parts of the same.
Absolutely. So the one thing that you got to understand with Google Ads, for example, is that for every search phrase that's out there, for every bit of demand that people go to Google looking for, there is a certain level of demand. So when you run an ad, you're effectively harvesting that demand. If that makes sense, you're saying, okay, 1,000 people are looking for it. I want to get in front of those people. You don't create demand, right? There are a limited number of people searching for that. So that's the first thing you got to understand. So with Google Ads, you can literally be up immediately. However long it takes you to write an ad, to create the copy, to put in your credit card details, to pick a landing page, and then click, submit and run those ads, you can be up immediately, right? The big issue, right, that you need to think about when it comes to running these ads is that not all ads are going to be successful. And every time someone clicks on it, they are costing you money. So before you run an ad, you need to think seriously about, is the phrase conversion focused enough? Is it something that's
stop a second. So
I know
when we talk conversion focused, right, we were talking about generating a result, and not always a sale. So, and talk about that a little bit, because we're going to do conversion optimization in another thing. We'll talk about that.
I probably should have meant, is it transactional focus? Let's say, emergency plumber Brisbane, right? Someone goes into Google and searches that. They're looking for a plumber, right? So you can bid on that phrase. But here's the key thing. You need to, you're in the mindset of the customer. You understand their need. They search for emergency plumber Brisbane. You have to make sure that you write an ad that speaks to the mindset of that person. Looking for an emergency plumber, need help right now, 24 hours, whatever that is, that's in the ad. And then it takes into a landing page that makes it easy for that person, right, to do business with you. So you need to think about the message, the keyword phrase they're searching for, the mindset of the customer, the ad that you run, and the landing page that you put them on to make it as easy as possible, right? Does that make sense?
And it's also that, like you said, and you can be up straight away. So, and I guess where I was leading for was what you explained there is I can be up straight away. So if I've got my thinking right and I do it well, great. But if I today had to start to get found for search optimization, organically, that's not an immediate thing.
No.
So it takes time, and we'll get into that detail in another session where we'll explain to people why. But they, when they're told that it's not an immediate instant fix, believe that. So the thing there is, when you talk about the demand from the market, there's also a business demand or a business need. So if the business need is, we need the phone to start ringing.
Absolutely.
You're not going to implement SEO today expecting a result next week.
That's right.
You might, and so the strategic view on both these things, or all of these things, are different. If I know that my offline channels aren't as effective as they once were, or my other strategies, whether it be cold calling, whatever, and I want to change that, don't kill the baby right now that was working because it's dropping and expect to be able to start tomorrow, certainly organically. Start your strategy. Say, well, the SEO campaign is going to take a little bit of time. So, we're not going to say how long because it's going to vary, but I can start paid campaigns now.
Correct.
And also test their effectiveness very quickly, which is the other side to it. You can turn them on or off. If that ad's not working, I can pause that ad and I can keep running some ads that are working. So
that's
I'm in
it.
control.
So if you have an immediate need for business, right, you'll start with the paid channel so you can get the punters through the door, as it were, and see what offers are converting, right? But at the same time, I always tell people, even when you start with paid ads, it's really important to step back and look. And we talk about it all the time. The fundamentals of your website, right? The speed at which the paid loads, whether the content is compelling, that actually impacts the performance of your paid ads as well. So I would suggest, even before you get to the point of saying, okay, do I make a decision to spend money on ads or SEO, make sure that the website is fast. Make sure that the website operates well, right? Because it will impact how well your ads perform, and longer term, obviously, your SEO. So I always tell people, get the technical infrastructure right. Make sure you got all your tracking codes and all that sort of stuff. And then if you need sales, start with paid advertising.
So we've now got, and I knew this would happen on this topic because it's a big topic, and a lot of the show is going to reach into these areas, right?
Yeah.
And you're already getting there, and I know you can't help it because we're talking about tracking codes, we're talking about all this stuff. Everyone's oh my god, I don't understand. What's he doing? My bloody website. Yeah, it's ringing in there. Okay, we won't have time in this session to go down and explain all this. All right. We'll get to it. But we've got a couple of things. I mean, there are a lot of different ad forms for paid. You've got Facebook paid ads, you've got Twitter sponsored ads, you've got Instagram ads you can sponsor, and that's just talking about some of the social media channels. But there are other channels out there that are more than acceptable, including paid placement on sites for display ads, for blog posts, all sorts of things that can happen. We won't go down there, but maybe it's important to just briefly touch on the fundamental differences between Google AdWords and Facebook ads, because there is a difference in the way that they target and the way that they approach things. And maybe I'll throw up a warning to people. A lot of people try AdWords and a lot of people try Facebook ads, don't get great results, throw the baby out with the bathwater, they're done. I'd never do it again. They don't work, they're crap. Partly because they didn't have a strategic approach, like you talked about initially, like, yeah, what am I trying to achieve? Secondly, probably pointed them the wrong page. Some fundamentals all wrong. The site took 8 seconds to load, and people on the mobile just couldn't be bothered. Yeah, or they couldn't do the transaction because people forget to put stuff. So there's a lot of those things. But there are some fundamental differences about how you target people on the two platforms, and they have quite different purposes. So keep listening, and we'll try to introduce you to concepts in the future shows on how you can find people to help work with to do your AdWords better and do your Facebook. But what are the differences with targeting?
At a very basic level, I mean, if you're looking at the primary two big plays in the paid traffic space, you're looking at Facebook ads and you're looking at Google ads, right? As I said before, Google ads is all about harvesting demand in the form of keyword searches, right? People have a problem, or they have a need, or they're looking for a provider, and they'll go and do a Google search. You can bid on the ad. But in Facebook, there's no keyword phrase targeting per se. People on Facebook aren't there looking for a product or service or a solution. They're checking out stuff from their friends. They're reading content, all that sort of stuff. They're just hanging around. Cat videos, whatever it is, right? So it's kind of interruption marketing, as it were. So, but what Facebook has that Google doesn't have to the same extent is that they have demographic information. They have usage and behavioral information on billions of users, right? So the power of Facebook is that if you understand who your customer is, right, who you want to be in front of, you have the ability to target them, right, and put your marketing messages in front of them. Now, no doubt later on we'll talk about what's the appropriate message. You don't jump in front of someone and say, "Hey, buy this now." But
it's that whole thing of saying, well, I can target people that are female, 35 to 50, that have a great interest in triathlons.
Absolutely.
Right? And so my special goggles and stuff like that. So you can actually target into an interest and demographic combination.
Correct. And your goal is that as your ad or your piece of content streams through that news feed, they might see it, right? And then they'll click through to the website, and then you've suddenly
or take action. Yeah, you can put action buttons and stuff obviously there. So, okay, well, they're the two fundamental things. So, all right, we want to wrap this up because obviously we don't want people sitting there for 2 hours.
Yeah.
We've got to start somewhere. People have looked at this, they might have experimented, or they're scared of doing it. Before they get in, what's the best way to approach starting online marketing? And you touched on a little bit, hey, I need to get the fundamentals in order, but how do they, and I suppose we use the word audit for everything, but actually look at their marketing and say, well, what do I have? What do I not have? I've got a website. Okay. Blah, blah. And we can talk about speed testing, performance testing, all that in future episodes, but they've got one. Where's it at? What do I do offline? Because I think it's really important. They understand their message is consistent everywhere they do it. What have I been doing it today? What didn't work offline, right? Have I been running ads in magazines, in industry-specific stuff? Have I got posters? Have I got radio? Whatever it might be. And then I think really important, what resources do they have? Because this is more resource intensive, isn't it? There's a big difference between, I got this magazine to do an ad for me and it runs for 3 months. I don't have to think about it. It's a bit different. So there are resources and capabilities to oversee them, because they will make a decision. I'm going to get an agency or a consultant to help me do it versus we can do it internally.
Correct.
So how do they conduct an order of this? And the first thing, how are they going to get started, right? What are they going to do?
That is a stupendously difficult question for most people, right? Because, one of the things I always tell people is to try to find good, knowledgeable partners who are willing to educate you about all of this stuff, right? Without the expectation to be paid up front. Not so much that they want to spend a huge amount of time, but to be willing to educate you. And that's the challenge. I think the first thing you can do is try to find partners and talk to a lot of people in this space and see whether they are helpful. Like, as you know, like you might spend a little time up front educating a new client that's not familiar with it. So are they saying these things, or do they sound like it's hard sell? So that's the first thing. Try to talk to a number of people in this space, right? And not just people from SEO or pay-per-click advertising agencies. Talk to a whole bunch of people, right? Because the reality is there are good people and there are bad people out there. And you want people who can help educate you to make a better decision, right? But at a very...
Maybe jump in there. a lot of people over the years have extended their services to offer things because their business was losing business. A good example in the early years of graphic design agencies that only do graphic design started doing web. Well, technically they can design a website, but they don't necessarily know all the technical side of every part of it. So unless they build those skills, they're not necessarily the right person to do it. And I think the same thing with your paid and your SEO is that people are possibly taking advice from people that aren't experts in it. And George Glasson in The Richest Man in Babylon talks about, if I'm going to invest in jewels from a faraway place, get a jeweler to buy the jewels. Don't go and get your plumber go off because he's going on holiday. So I think that's the thing of the people. Is their business being run and improved by whatever type of marketing you're going to do? Are they exhibiting it? Do they run paid ads themselves, or are they just selling it as a service because they clip the ticket and make a commission?
Correct.
Or is their SEO good? Do they rank or not? Those sorts of questions.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hesitant to sort of try to knock anyone on the head, but you're right. There are that the example that you chose is awesome, and we see it a lot. The print agency who's moving into digital and stuff. I think that given the complexity of this space, you want to try to find people who are experts in a specific area, right? Yourself, you're an expert in web design, hosting. I mean, you've shameless plug. He's written a book about it, right? So try to find people who are experts or consultants, right? Have those conversations, read their blogs, and you will educate yourself better, right? But just be aware that you don't want to get sold something just because it's in someone's kit, if that makes sense. And this is the challenge. You know what I recommend? Keep listening to this podcast because it is a continuously challenging space. And if you keep listening, we will tell you how to avoid the charlatans and how to find really good people who can help you and what you can do next.
And I think that's the important thing. We're not talking to contact us. This is about information sharing to say, help you make better decisions where you're going. So look, to summarize it, I'm probably going to say there's a few things to consider. One, there are no magic bullets. This is not an easy pathway to miracles or dollars flowing in customers. But it's also not that complex that you've got to just run away from it. What you have to do is approach it smart. We'll cover more details in the future, and there's a number of terms you're going to hear that relate to online marketing. We've talked about conversion optimization. That's known by an acronym called CRO. There are things like CPM, which is used in ads. Analytics we've talked about. We talked about auction bids or prices in an auction. SERP, which is a search engine result page. Backlinks, all sorts of terms you're going to hear. We're going to try and help educate you on them, but there is no magic bullet. Sometimes you're straight lucky, things will go well. We want you to help understand more about it, understand how to know to talk to people. So thanks, Ed. It was a great insights today on the basics. I know we're just touching the surface, hopefully that provides some great value to listeners out there about just separating the difference between so they can talk. Because I think when you talk to someone else, if you get someone comes to you and says, well, my PPC rank is at the bottom of page 2, moving up every time I get a new link, you go, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. That's right. If you understand it better as an owner or marketer, you can have smarter conversations. And, you sound smarter. You sound like you know what you're doing. You're going to get a better result.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome. Well, I think that's it for today. What do you reckon, Daryl?
I reckon.
Excellent. Now, if you want to be notified when the next episode goes up, please, once again, go to mybloodywebsitepodcast.com or subscribe to us on iTunes. If you enjoyed the podcast, as always, please, would love it and appreciate it if you left us a review. And we hope to see you here next week when we continue this chat about My Bloody Website. It's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from him.